What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Happy to be talking golf with you another week. We have a little surprise show here. We weren't originally planning to do a show for the Tour Championship, but pretty big contests out there this week. We can talk a little strategy, a little betting as well. So just decided to bring you what probably end up being a quick show, but I'll bring you a little bit of analysis anyhow here for the Tour Championship. I, of course, am Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. A little under the weather here. The wheel of the kids going back to school has struck, which means about a week after the kids go back to school, they get a cold and then they pass it along to the parents. That's the stage we're at right now. So I'm okay. Just dealing with a cold. Voice might be a little bit shaky, but we're powering through. It's just tough to not feel well when it's like 100 degrees outside. So we're powering through. We got the AC going and happy to talk some golf. Got Derek Farnsworth, aka Notorious, alongside as usual. Noto, what's up?
Yeah, you sound a little congested, as do I. Have the same thing going on in my household. So yeah, nice little tradition going back to school, getting sick.
It's clockwork. Every year, end of August, early September, you're gonna get a little something, but that's okay. We'll power through. We'll make it through, and then get better. Just the brutal heat wave coinciding with getting sick is not super fun, but that's okay. And we've got golf to talk about and big money to be won. Maybe winning a GPP will help us all feel a little bit better this week. And I was joking last week. I was kind of joking when I said Keegan Bradley, barely made it in. Shouldn't have made it into the BMW Championship. Tom Kim went 6-6-6 down the stretch to let Keegan into the BMW, and then Keegan goes and wins it. I just you can't script that any better. So we were kind of joking last week, but here we are, and now Keegan gets to start fourth this week.
Yeah, well, you know what that means. Justin Thomas, last man in, gonna win this week, just 10 shots back.
There you go. He starts 10 back. He's plus 300. To take it down. So we'll see if there's any craziness. We'll talk some strategy. Again, we usually don't do a show for this. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with the strategy, we'll talk about how the starting strokes work. But obviously the top 30 that are here are generally the guys that are playing the best. Hideki Matsuyama, though, did withdraw last week. It never safe from a Hideki withdrawal. He withdraws in the middle of the playoffs because of an illness and a slight injury. He still starts third this week. Robert McIntyre also withdrew mid-tournament last week. He will be starting towards the bottom, but he did make it into the championship as well. But any takeaways other than that from last week and how you're planning to handle, especially Hideki here with this tournament?
Yeah, I was kind of rooting for Adam Scott to pull it off. I don't know if you heard, but he made his PGA Tour debut at that event, at that course, like 24 years ago or something crazy like that. And yeah, it kind of looked like he had it in the bag until the weekend, but still, he's been playing some great golf, finished T2, earned himself a trip to East Lake, so that was cool to see. For Hideki, man, yeah, it must have been pretty bad because, he was only one shot off the lead when he withdrew. I know that burned a lot of people. McIntyre as well probably burned a lot of people. It's just hard. It's don't cut events. If you have a WD, it's just going to kill your lineup, even if you have a lot of guys at the top. But, yeah, it was a good leaderboard. I kind of wish one of the big names would have been in it. It was kind of strange to see Scheffler struggle. It was his first time losing strokes tee to green since last Tour Championship. So I'm sure we'll have some takes on him, here in a bit. But yeah, Xander keeps crushing. Tommy is playing well. Nice to see Oberg playing a little bit better too.
Yeah, a year without losing strokes tee to green is pretty impressive. So kudos to Scheffler. Obviously, a dud is going to happen every now and again, but it was weird not seeing him up there on Sunday. All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention to the Tour Championship. Just 30 golfers this week, so we won't do a snake draft at the end of the show tonight, but I think an interesting way to start before we talk about the course is just strategy in general. So there was a time in the past where guys would win the Tour Championship, but they wouldn't win the playoffs. So the way that they fixed that was to go with starting strokes. So the golfer who comes into the playoffs number one gets to start at -10. That's Scheffler. Then the number 2 golfer gets to start at -8. That's Xander. Hideki's at -7. Keegan's at -6. Oberg's at -5. Then there's 5 guys at -4, 5 guys at -3, 5 guys at -2, 5 guys at -1, and 5 guys at even. All based on where they're at in the standings right now. And then whoever wins, when you factor in the starting strokes, is the tour champion. Noto and I are both on record that we don't really like this format. It just doesn't seem optimal. Winning the tournament and not winning the championship also doesn't seem optimal. So it's kind of a no-win situation unless you go back to a match play bracket or something like that. But just talking strategy this week where finishing position matters and you got somebody starting at -10 is somewhat similar to like showdown strategy, except over a period of 4 days is the best way to kind of make an analogy of it. But how do you generally handle the starting stroke differentials?
Yeah, I mean, the format isn't great. Any playoff where only like 5 guys can actually win is kind of weird when there's 30 guys in the field. I think a true playoff would just be, I don't know, the match play, we talked about that, or even just having everyone start at 0 strokes, like at the start of the playoffs, and then, having just a cumulative score throughout the 3 tournaments would be at least a little interesting. But yeah, I mean, you got to take some of the win equity at the top. I think starting, with one of the 2 guys up there is probably your best bet. I think Scheffler's like +110 to win. Xander's like +230. So you're probably going to want to have one of them in your lineups. But like after that, I'm not looking at starting strokes all that much, because 5th place in terms of finishing position points gets you 14 DraftKings points, and 30th gets you 3. So that's essentially 2 birdies. And you got to remember, like the starting strokes aren't guaranteed. Like they're not going to finish there. So guys are going to drop, guys are going to move up. I kind of think it's a good week to target the guys that are down the leaderboard a little bit. And then this is a good week to leave a lot of money on the table, because you're just going to have so many overlap lineups. You're going to have 30 golfers in the field. So everyone's going to be owned. And the best way to avoid dupes is just to leave a lot of money on the table. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that covers it. I mean, I looked at the odds. So what would you say the odds of Xander or Scheffler winning are on the sports books? Have you looked at that already?
Yeah, right. Scheffler is 110 and Xander's +230.
So there's a prop on DraftKings that Xander or Schauffele versus the field.
I'll go like -190.
-330.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was a little high. The problem is there's a lot of juice on it because the field is +225. So
if you bet them individually, you're going to get way better odds. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, just bet them both individually if you want to do that. But the question would be whether you want to take the field +225. What I did is I took our win probability metrics in Lineup HQ, which have the 2 of them at like 68, almost 69%. Converted the +225 odds for the field to an implied probability, which is 31%, which pretty much jives with the chance that we're giving it. So I guess that's not necessarily a value. I kind of figured it would be at first, but pretty big juice on it. So yeah, if you're going to bet that, bet both of them outright as opposed to that prop. Can also bet, will there be an albatross at +2,500? Wouldn't recommend that either. But those are some of there's not too many like fun props out yet, but those were a couple that I saw on DraftKings before we came on the air. So I think you hit the strategy element pretty good. Obviously, you're going to probably need the winner, so you're probably going to have to play somebody that's starting, at or near the top. But once you get down to the guys at -1, -2, -3, probably not a whole lot of difference in terms of how you want to consider them. Just for the finishing position bonus, which is, again, 4 rounds from now, not just 1 round from now, as it would be in a final round showdown. So, all right, let's talk about the course a little bit. So we've got East Lake, usually the host course in Atlanta for this Tour Championship, and not a pushover compared to some of the other courses that we've seen. So what are your thoughts on the course this week?
Yeah, so typically it's been a pretty tough course, pretty narrow fairways, thick rough. The fairways here very tough to hit. I think we saw 55% driving accuracy last year. And the fairways, there's always a grass. So you're going to get really good lies in the fairways. And we've seen just a lot of guys that good iron players, good total drivers perform really well here over the years. But the course has undergone a restoration since we've seen it last. They reshaped the fairways and greens. They have new zoysia grass, new Bermuda grass. They moved some bunkers. They lengthened the course. It's 7,500 yards now. So I haven't looked at any player transcripts yet this week, but I am going to be trying to read those over the next couple of days, see if they say if the course is playing any different than usual. I can't imagine it'll play much different, but maybe it'll be a little tougher. But yeah, kind of looking at guys that are really good all around because this is going to test all aspects of your game, similar to a major championship, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, since it seems like the changes, if anything, would make it just a touch harder. But it already played pretty hard. So I don't think it's going to be that noticeable in the overall results in terms of how the course is playing, but good idea on looking out for quotes from the players. Would imagine you'll start to see some of those filter out maybe more tomorrow. Victor Hovland did come out and say that it looks nothing like it used to, and he was kind of shocked as he walked it for the first time. But I mean, that's not necessarily concrete data on how it's playing. Just that it looks a little bit different. So
I heard they took a picture from like 1949, an aerial picture, and just tried to like restore it back to how it was that year, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, does that mean course history is going to be less important this week?
I don't know. It's weird because there are, I mean, obviously now that they've changed the format, the guys that usually start near the top are going to finish at least somewhere near there. But I would say maybe it diminishes it a little bit. Curious, did you see how predictive it generally is here? I know you usually like to look that up.
I'll look it up right now. I'm pretty sure it's one of the most predictive. Let's see.
Yeah, so maybe that hurts it a little bit.
So it's like top 6 most predictive.
We'll see if that sticks for this year's edition. All right, let's go ahead and dig into the golfers. Again, we've only got 30 of them, but almost 70% win equity between Scheffler and Schauffele. So question number 1, do you have to play one of them in any given lineup?
You don't have to. I would recommend it. That's probably what I'm going to do. But yeah, I think you probably want one of the two. If not, you're probably going to be a little unique. You can take like Hideki, Rory, Cantlay, something like that. And then just hope that, Scheffler and Xander kind of struggle. But given the way Xander's played here in the past and how high his floor has been, I think he's my guy this week. Scheffler, we talked about it. He did lose strokes tee to green last year at this event. We lost strokes tee to green last week. He's finished T13 or worse in the shadow leaderboard at this event 3 straight years, which is kind of surprising considering the fact that there's only 30 golfers in the field. So I like Xander. I think by the end of the week, he's probably going to be more popular than Scheffler, but that's kind of what I'm going for. I think I'm going to go 50% Xander, maybe 25% Scheffler, and maybe 25% without any of them. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'll probably be higher on lineups percentage-wise that have at least one of them, maybe closer to that 80 or 85 range, and then 15 to 20 without. But with you on Schauffele being the preferred option, I mean, you could argue that the form from him has been better. We talked about this last week and how they were pretty even in our projections. Scheffler gets a boost, obviously, because he's starting 2 strokes ahead, but there's a pretty big price difference too. And last year, it feels like the pricing differences for the top guys were even more extreme. So 12.2K and 11K for these 2 guys doesn't seem too bad. So yeah, I think particularly if you're only building one lineup, you got to start with one of these guys. I'm with you on being more overweight on Xander compared to Scheffler, but they're both obviously the top 2 guys at this moment for a reason, pretty far ahead of the pack.
Do you like the idea of playing both?
So if you play both, that leaves you with 6,700 per golfer. I don't hate that. I mean,
the problem is
taking
the
those
4v4s are going to be hard to get unique in that 4v4.
Correct. Yeah, it'll be tougher to be unique if you do that. You'd almost have to go even more value with your other 4 guys and leave salary on the table. Because I'm probably going to try to leave at least 200 in salary in every lineup, and potentially up to 800 or 900, because so many people use the full salary cap or within $100 that we've talked about this before. If you leave just 200 or more on the table, you do give yourself a much greater chance of being unique. But a lot of those combinations will be duped because we only have 30 golfers this week. So definitely good point on that.
And hey, our Scheffler fade together finally worked. So maybe it'll work again.
Goes blind squirrel finds a nut. We get it. We got it right for 1 week. But yeah, he could very easily make us have egg on our face at the end of the week. But it's all right. Worked last week, so it's got to work again. And I'm not full fading in this week. Just we'll be underweight on our projected ownership for sure. We're kind of both in the same boat there. All right, let's go down to the next range. Again, if you're not playing one of the top guys, you for sure got to take one of these other guys that's starting near the top. So that'd be Matsuyama, starts 3 back. He's at 10-1. Keegan starts 4 back. He's at 8-7. Oberg starts 5 back. He's 9-9. Then Burns, Cantlay, Morikawa, Clark, and Rory are all start 6 back. And they're kind of in this next group here. Rory's 96, Cantlay's 94, Morikawa's 91, Burns is 85. So basically most of the guys at 85 and up are the guys that are starting at -4 or better for the most part. I might have missed one in there as I was flipping back and forth between the two. But your thoughts on kind of how to handle these other guys that are starting inside the top 10? Do you have a preference? Is there one you'd like to pair with either Scheffler or Schauffele in lineups where you're not playing both? Matsuyama, coming off the withdrawal last week. Some interesting angles here.
Yeah, I love Rory this week. Good price point on him at 9,600. He's had the low score here without starting strokes 2 of the last 5 years. And good finish last week after a really poor, start at the FedEx St. Jude. So at 9,600, I think he's a really good option, especially with them lengthening the course. He's already the best driver in the field. Now you get a longer course, so I think that's going to help him, if anything. I like Morikawa too, a guy that's going to hit a lot of fairways. Last week's T28 was his worst finish in 13 starts. I mean, his floor's just been so high. He finished T4 here last year on the Shadow leaderboard. Those would probably be my favorites, but I will play some Cantlay. Just anytime you get him in the playoffs, I think it's a good bet. Back-to-back top 15s for him. Probably going to be underweight on Hideki, going to be underweight on Ludwig, and then kind of take my chances with Keegan and Burns fade too.
Yeah, Keegan, I'm out on Keegan this week as well. The ownership's because he's one of the lower priced. He is the lowest priced guy that's starting inside the top 5. He will be popular, surely after a win last week. Probably been a little bit of a whirlwind. Doesn't grade out that well in our projections. I'm out on Keegan this week. I like the Rory call with the added distance to the course. Morikawa is going to be my favorite in here. If you look at last 24 rounds, the only golfer in this field that's top 10 in every strokes gained category in this field over the last 24 rounds is Morikawa. So steady enough, starting close enough to the top that I think he can make a run. So Morikawa at 9,100 is definitely my favorite. Rory be right in there as well. Don't mind Oberg. But probably going to be underweight on Keegan and Burns if those ownerships hold. I mean, we've got Keegan at 27% right now and Burns at 31%. So anything else on that range that you want to mention?
2 other guys in the 8Ks, Victor Hovland, Wyndham Clark. Hovland short game is always a concern, but the ball striking was really good 2 weeks ago. Gained 4.4 strokes on approach last week. And then won this event last year. So if he's going to be the lowest owned guy above 8K, I'll have some interest there. And never know what to do with Wyndham Clark, but man, T14 or better in 5 of his last 6 starts. Tends to play difficult courses well. Tends to play these big events well. And he was really good here last year too. T3 on the Shadow leaderboard. So I'm probably going to be overweight on those 2 and then underweight on Burns and Keegan.
All right, like those calls, we're fairly well in agreement on that range. Then we kind of move down into the start of the guys that are starting outside the top 10. We've got Adam Scott, Tony Finau, Tommy Fleetwood. Let's see. They are in the upper part of the 7K range. Sung J.M., Russell Henley, Shane Lowry, Benny On, going down to the bottom part of the 7K range. Finau, Lowry, Scott, Im, and Thigala are the guys starting at -3. Henley, Benyon, Hovland, McIntyre, Akshay starting at -2. So those are kind of the guys you're getting in this price range. Looks like right now ownership be fairly well spread out here. So this could be the area that maybe makes or breaks lineups, because you got a lot of guys that are probably going to be in that 15 to 20%, not massive chalk, not low owned by any means, but in a 30 golfer field, you're not going to get a ton of 5 or 6% owned guys. So what are your thoughts on the 7Ks? I think my favorite, I'll just keep going back to the Adam Scott, grading out really well in our projections. Very easily could have won last week. I think he's veteran enough that he's not just going to sulk about the fact that he didn't win. So Scott in the 7Ks, I like a lot. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if you start Xander and either Rory or Morikawa, you can get 3 of these guys, and I like everyone from 74 to 79. You talked about Scott playing well. Finau's irons have been solid all year, back-to-back top 20s for him. Tommy's been playing some great golf right now, second at the Olympics, and then he gained a career high 10 strokes tee to green at the FedEx St. Jude, and then T5 last week. Got Sungjae's been playing his best golf of the year, and then Russell Henley, Georgia guy. Similar skill set to Morikawa, where he's going to hit fairways, hit a lot of good iron shots. I think all 5 are pretty strong plays, and yeah, I think I'll probably have 3 of them in my main lineup and be overweight probably on all of them in MME too.
Yeah, so that's the benefit of if you start with both Scheffler and Xander, you're probably not getting much in this range, but if you only start with one of them, it does become a little bit more accessible. So like those calls in there. Sungjae, Henley, Lowry, even in addition to Scott, and certainly don't mind playing Finau at that price as well. I think you can get a nice lineup around a Scheffler or Schauffele start if you're sitting in this range. And I do prefer it to the 6s. I mean, obviously there's guys in the 6Ks that you can play, but the 7's probably a little bit stronger overall. And I like Thigala a little bit right at 7K as well. So certainly don't mind getting exposure to that range. Anything else in the 7s here? We're almost through the golfers already.
I don't know what to do with Thigala. He beat 2 guys last week. He beat 2 guys in his only appearance at this event. But
so he's going to win.
Anytime it seems like you shouldn't play him is when you should. So I'm probably with you. I could see his ownership coming down too, just given the fact that he hasn't played great the last couple of weeks. Horschel keeps playing well. I'll play some of him. And then my sort of conviction play is going to be JT. Talked about it a little bit. Snuck into the Tour Championship as the last guy, and he's finished T9 or better here each of the last 4 times he's played it. Kind of same with Straka. Straka's finished T6 here each of the last 2 times he's played it. So those would be my favorites in the 6s. But I could see, I don't know. I think a lot of them are going to end up being popular just because of the Scheffler Xander builds.
Yeah, that can elevate the ownership at least a little bit. All the guys in this range, and even in the 6s, just because you're gonna have to force some of them if you are starting with both of those guys at the top. So if you follow the last man in, Justin Thomas at 6,800 is going to come from shots back to win. Obviously, McIntyre through last week has been all over the place lately. The 2 guys that have been better of late would be Aaron Rai, maybe faded a bit from where it was at earlier in the summer, and Pendrith, who's been playing pretty well. I've been playing Pendrith pretty much every week for a couple months now. Probably going to go back to that. Well, he's definitely my favorite in the 6Ks this week. You as you're starting to maybe try to find a 6th golfer in your lineup.
Yeah, don't hate Pendrith. I do like Aaron Rai as well. Just him, Henley, and Morikawa are like the same type of golfer where fairways and irons, and I think that plays well here. Other than that, man, I don't know. Hoagie did gain 8.5 strokes on approach last week, so that was pretty impressive. he's one of those guys that tends to get hot and stay hot for a couple weeks. So maybe I'll play some Hoagie. But Matthew Pavon, man, he's got a rating of 14.4 in my model. I think that's the lowest I've ever seen in a no-cut event. So probably won't be playing any of him. But I like JT, like Aaron Rye, maybe a little bit of Hoagie and Straka.
All right, Steve messaged that maybe my audio was cutting out a little bit. I'll let him message in our internal chat again. I tried to mute my mic and unmute it, but we'll see if that fixed it. Or do I sound okay to you?
Sound good now. You were cutting out a little bit, but you're good now.
Okay. Well, we're probably almost through this. I'll close out a couple things in case that was causing it, or probably just had a little bit of interference through our stuff today just because it's so ridiculously hot outside. But we'll hope it holds up for the rest of the show here. So, yeah, Pendrith is my guy in here. I don't mind that JT angle. I mean, definitely probably not playing Kirk and Pavon at where we have them projected. Not enough of a salary difference from those other guys who have been playing a little bit better. So that takes us pretty much through the golfers. And again, we only have 30 this week, so not enough to do a 6-man snake draft. I was looking through, at least try to just cover a couple more minutes here, maybe so we can get to a half hour. But I was looking through some of the head-to-head matchups here. So I don't have strong takes on a lot of these, but let's see. Have you looked at any of the head-to-head golfer matchups yet?
I haven't.
Was that a have not?
Yeah.
All right. So it's good. I can have you guess some of these odds and we can see where you think they might be. Maybe we can find some value in here. So let's see. So this would be tournament matchup, including starting strokes, but most of these guys are kind of starting around the same point. So including starting strokes is a factor here. But so JT versus Aaron Rye, where do we think those head-to-head odds are?
Ooh, I would say JT small favorite, -140.
Yeah, he is. It's only -115, so it's basically a pick 'em if you take the juice out of both sides. So I kind of like JT a little bit in that matchup, and most of these is kind of they've grouped the guys around that are pretty much together in terms of starting strokes. So most of them are around even odds. Finau versus Sungjae is -120 for Finau. Hovland versus Fleetwood's another one that's about even. Cantlay versus Wyndham Clark. Let's see. Oberg against Sam Burns. Oberg's -150. I kind of like eating the juice there if you're going to play that one, but not a whole lot out there where it's like -400 versus -320 or something like that. But do you usually place some bets for this tournament? How does your betting card usually look for this goofy event?
Yeah, I usually like to do the 72-hole low score just because I don't like betting the +200 or whatever. So I'm probably going to do Tommy, Henley, and then add one more. I think Tommy's in the 20s, Henley's 28. So probably what I'll do. But if I was betting with starting strokes, I'd probably just go Xander at +230.
Yeah, so winner without starting strokes is Schauffele's +400, Scheffler's +400, Rory's +1,000, Hovland +14, Oberg +16, Morikawa +16. If you are interested in betting just the natural scoring result as opposed to including the starting strokes. So, all right, that takes us through the Tour Championship. Again, only 30 golfers, so just a quick little show here for you. There is no tournament next week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks for the start of the fall swing with the Pro Core Championship out in Napa. So, Noto, anything else before we get out of here?
No, don't count your winnings before round 4 because it will change.
That's right. All right. Thanks to Noto for joining me tonight. Thanks to Steve for working hard and producing for us behind the scenes. I'm Justin. We hope you all have a great rest of your week. Good luck in your contests, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks, everybody. Take care.